Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Eric with SweetSpotDFS, and welcome to my DFS preview for the 2022 Genesis Invitational. In this video, we're going to go over everything you're going to need to know in order to hit the optimal lineup this week. And that's going to include looking at the tournament, the course information, past optimal lineups, and the bucket system. It's all about trying to find the optimal lineup this week, because if you aim small, you're going to miss small. If we don't hit the optimal lineup, it's going to give us a better chance to hit the GPP winning lineup instead. But before we actually get into the preview, I want to remind you guys there are some giveaways this week. The first one being a subscriber giveaway. Now, we just ran this Sunday night. We almost got to our second goal of 300 subscribers. Last week it was 285, so we're only 6 away. I will run this giveaway Sunday night if we get 6 new subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And if you want a free entry, all you gotta do is be subscribed. Leave a comment in the comment section. We're going to need a 10K golfer this week. No questions about it. The bucket system is projecting at least 3. I mean, it's up to 3 10K golfers inside the top 10. So I think we're going to need at least 1, maybe even 2. So give me your favorite one in the 10K range. That'll get you a free entry. If you want an additional one, just share the tweet I will send out with this video in it. Well, retweet it on Twitter, and then that'll get you an additional entry. And if you want more, comment in the strategy video tomorrow and comment in the prize picks video Wednesday. Those 3 videos get you 3 free entries, and if you share one of them on Twitter, you'll get an additional one, so you get up to 4 entries to win $10 this week. If we get to 325 subscribers, it's possible. I will actually up it to $25. So that's all on you guys. If you're not yet subscribed, please do so. Also share it to get more people to subscribe. We can raise that pot for this giveaway. But right now, as it stands, $10 can be yours Sunday night. The second giveaway, prize picks giveaway. If you haven't signed up on prize picks and you're in a state that allows it, I have a link in the description below that'll get you straight to the sign up page utilizing the promo code SweetSpot. And if you sign up with that code, put $20 into your account, I'm going to give you $20. So you're gonna be playing prize picks for free, essentially. And they're also gonna match your deposit up to $100. Despite what some of those content creators say out there, like, prize picks is gonna give you a deposit match no matter what. You don't have to use a promo code. So whether you use mine or someone else's, that's up to you, but I will be gifting you $20 if you use mine. Helps me out, helps you out, and they're going to match your deposit. So you're going to have $40 to your account if you just put 20 in. Simple as that. Again, link in the description below. Let's go ahead. Let's get into this thing. Let's talk about the tournament information first. Let me throw that on the screen right now. Genesis Invitational, established in 1926, 120 players this week, so a lot less than what we see in other tournaments. And the cut is still top 65 in ties, so in theory, it should be easier to get 66 through, which probably is the case. Your average winning score this week is minus 12.5. That's a pretty high score, like high as in closer to even. I have to always get that. Yeah, you score lower, it's going to be like 20 under. Anyways, pretty high score. So you can actually incorporate some of your grinded out golfers, like a Jason Day. I don't know if he's in the field this week, but this would be a perfect tournament for him. Doesn't make a lot of birdies, but he also doesn't make a lot of bogeys. There's just some kind of invisible lid around the hole that doesn't allow him to hit birdies, but allows him to hit pars. Like, it's just weird. But that's the type of golfer he has always been. And there are types of golfers like that. You just have to try to identify those golfers. Average cut score, +1. That's also pretty high. Strength of field this week, I have 696. That's without any withdraws. So if there are withdraws, this will probably go down. But currently, as it sits, 696. That's really, really high. I mean, it's super high. It's probably the highest this tournament's ever been. Looking at weather, this is a Monday night, so, take it with what it's worth. Always check Wednesday night just to see if weather changes, but it's forecasted to be 68 degrees on Thursday, 71 on Friday, 5 to 10 mile per hour winds both days, so not a lot of wind, which helps with scoring, but this is a difficult golf course. Scoring isn't going to be it's not going to be pretty low. Like, let's put it that way. Not a lot of birdies will be made in comparison to other golf courses. Now, the other pieces of information aren't really that important. Your architect, or it's Riviera Country Club, so you can use course history with that. Your architect is, shoot, I already forgot his name, Glenn Thomas maybe, and then William P. Bell, which I think he was one of the architects for the Pebble Beach golf courses, if I remember correctly. It's just off of memory. Sorry, I don't have this with me, but literally these pieces, I mean, okay, so it's also been renovated by Tom Fazio, as well as Ben Crenshaw and Bill Corr. Now, don't worry about the Tom Fazio thing. He may have touched the golf course several times, as it says on like the GCSAA, but the most notable one was Ben Crenshaw and Bill Corr. We would have to look up to see what those renovations were. I believe the initial design and layout belongs to Thomas and Bell. So if you can do your research, try to figure that out. Maybe you can use Ben Crenshaw and Bill Corr design golf courses. There's a bunch of them, like the I think Kapalua is one of them, but this isn't anything like Kapalua, so it doesn't really matter, honestly. I'm starting to kind of tire talking about architects like it really matters. Fazio is one that you would want to look at. So is Pete Dye, but trying to figure out, you know, the rest of them, it's kind of just wasted air, really. Par 71, 7,300 yards, Poa annua greens, Kikuyu grass in the fairways and the rough. I don't need to tell you guys that it's difficult to hit out of that stuff because everybody else is saying it. And it's pointless. Just use those grass stats for your approach stats around the green, that kind of stuff. You don't have to use it for anything else. And then putting, you can use Poa annua putting. That should get you to a decent group of golfers. Let's put it that way. And then when it comes to shot shape, I really don't have anything that is necessary. Really, nothing super required. There are some, what would you call them? Trying to think of like memorable golf hole. What is that called? Whatever. It's late. I can't think. But some of the golf holes that are important, you want to be hitting a cut on. So you can see fades are a big number there. Yeah, brain's not working, so we'll just skip past that. You don't really have to worry about shot shape whatsoever. So let's go ahead. Let's get into past optimal lineups. And we'll start in 2018. I don't have the salaries for 2017, but I do remember playing DraftKings in 2017. So unfortunately, I can't tell you what some of these price tags are. I'm pretty sure Thomas Pieters at that time was a 6K golfer. DJ would have been like a 10K golfer. But we got to start in 2018. What we're going to see here is a lot of money left on the table for a lot of these optimal lineups that I'll be discussing. Not advisable. Do not leave a lot of money on the table. Try to get it as close as $50,000 as possible because it limits the amount of lineups you can create. And honestly, if you've been with me for a long time, you already know a lot of the GPP winning lineups use about $50,000. We always can construct a lineup that beats the GPP winning lineup by using close to $50,000. So you don't have to worry about leaving money on the table when you see optimal lineups like this. But in 2018, what you had was 7K, 8K, 7, 7, 7, 9K as the optimal lineup. I created a realistic optimal, which is all 6 golfers inside the top 10. And that used an 11K golfer, 2 8Ks, 2 7s, and a 6. That's pretty traditional, pretty standard. Going into 2019, again, we're leaving a bunch of money on the table. I, again, don't advise doing that. And what you would see with the regular optimal is 7, 11, 7, 8, 7, 6. So that's actually pretty close, you know. I don't know what else to say, but 48.9 is close to what I use as my logic. I want anything 49 and above. And that was pretty close. But a more realistic one would be using an 11K, a 10K, 2 7s, 2 6s, which is super interesting that you could do something like that. I don't have the point totals to show you that, and I don't have the GPP winning lineup. So unfortunately, I can't prove to you that something like that would work. But you can see all 6 of those golfers inside the top 10. In 2020, your optimal left a bunch of money on the table. Again, not advisable. And you used a 9K 76697, and that made up your optimal lineup. That way I can show you 586.5 points were scored. The GPP winning lineup, 539. So nearly 50 points between the two. I'm not going to go over the GPP winning lineup, but the realistic optimal scored 580.5. So that is 6 points behind the optimal. Just letting you guys know that. And you use close to $50,000, $49,500. And you'd be using an 11K, a 9K, 2 7s, and 2 6s. That's kind of one of those themes. There will be 6K golfers that will be showing up inside the top 10. You're probably going to need to own one of them. There probably will be multiples, and you're going to need one of them, because we're also going to have a bunch of 10K golfers up there too, inside the top 10. So you're going to be able to mix and match. You just got to find the right 10K golfer. Let's see here. And then in 2021, let me hide this column. We don't need to see it. A more traditional look at an optimal lineup. 49.6 versus 50,000, your GPP winning lineup. So again, not leaving the GPP winning lineup did not leave any money on the table. Use all 50,000. The optimal left 400 on the table. So it was super close. And it was a very balanced build. A 9, 2 8s, a 7, an additional 8, and another 7. So you had 3 8s, 2 7s, and a 9K. That is the most balanced build that I've ever seen in an optimal lineup. Let's see, what did the optimal lineup score? 599.5, and the GPP winning lineup scored 561. So there was a lot of room between that you could have taken down a GPP by trying to search for the optimal, trying to pursue the optimal. So those were your past optimal lineups. Let's go ahead. Let's jump right into the bucket system. I'm just going to start out with salaries, and I'm going to, okay, let me just actually say something first. For those unfamiliar with the bucket system, there are 6 stat categories that I look at. Last year stats, last week stats. Oh, hold on. Let me back it up. Last year finishing position and the range that they fall in. Last week finishing position and the range they fall in. Course history, which goes back to 2013. What is their average finishing place, and whatever range they fall in is whatever bucket they fall in as well. And same goes with the recent form. This is the last 7 weeks makes up the recent form stat. Their average finishing position within these ranges determines the bucket they fall in. And then obviously salaries, 10, 9, 8, 7, high 6, low 6. That's how I break it down, just to get 6 buckets out of the salaries. And strokes gained stats, I do a little bit differently. When we look at strokes gained 1, that means all stats are positive. Strokes gained 2, positive off the tee, positive putting, and whatever negative stat in between, whether it's approach or around the green. I don't care. I lump them in with this bucket. Strokes gained 3, positive off the tee, negative putting, and I don't care what the stats are in between. Same applies for strokes gained 4, but now we're flipping. We're going negative off the tee, positive putting. 5 is negative off the tee, negative putting, and whatever in between. And then strokes gained 6, no strokes gained stats. So now that you kind of have an idea of that, I think we can probably just cruise through this and save you guys some time. Looking at salaries, like I told you, the 10K range, definitely one of those we want. I'm actually surprised to see 2.36. I thought it was going to be a lot larger than that. I think originally when I did this, I must have cleaned up some of the data that was in there, and this number went down a little bit. I think because it was at 3.01, unless I was looking at a different one. It might have been that. My bad. So either way, 1.4, we always round down to 1. So the minimum projection is 1. The maximum projection is 3 because we're always rounding up. So either way, like I said in the beginning of the video, you might want up to 3. Might even have 2 inside the top 10. I shouldn't say you want. Let me retract that. This is a projection of what I think might be inside the top 10. So it looks pretty good. We're going to have at least one 10K golfer inside the top 10, maybe two. And just to give you a little bit more of an idea of what you should do with that information, you can look at it one of two ways. Either you absolutely want to own a 10K golfer, or you don't think either the 10K golfers finishes inside the top 5. Because that's what you essentially need with playing a 10K golfer, is they need to finish inside the top 5 in order to have a chance to take down an optimal lineup or even win a GPP winning lineup. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to 9Ks, there's a potential we see 0. Anytime that this says 0 here, again, we're always rounding down. And I've seen it, I've seen a 0.99 have 0, with my projections. So 9 and 8Ks, not super safe, although they're loaded. They're loaded with really good players. Another thing you guys can do at home, look at the average per year that we see, compare it to how many we have this week. These projections bake in those numbers, by the way. It looks at the success rate. It looks at how many golfers are in that bucket this year. It also takes into account strength of field to, make it more quality driven than, quantity driven. So it takes all of that information in, and that's how the projections come out. So yeah, 9 and 8, nothing is certain, but the projections look good. 7K, definitely want 1. That almost went up to, if this just goes over 3, like say 3.01, we always round up, remember? So that would be a 4. But we see 1 to 3. So really good chance we're going to see 2 7K golfers. And then your 6K range, it's your volatility range, not a super high success rate. Although we did see a lot of optimal lineups in our past optimals that we just talked about, where you'd want a couple 6Ks in your lineup. It just doesn't look that good this year. Not to say it won't happen, but it's 0 to 1 high 6s, 0 to 1 low 6s. So that's kind of how the projections shake out with the bucket system on salaries. I'm actually going to go from salaries to last year's stats. I was thinking about going to strokes gained, but I think going to last year. Actually, how about this? Let's go to course history. We'll start course history. It just seems like the most logical thing to go to next. And then we'll go to recent form, and then we'll go to last year's stats, and then last week's stats. So when we're looking at course history, it doesn't matter to have good course history here. The bucket system will let us know. Obviously, this range here is your 1 to 20. So that is average finishing position better than 20th place. So this is your really good course history, this bucket right here. It's currently our 3rd ranked bucket. Does have a high success rate, not a lot of golfers in this bucket on average, and not a lot this year. So the projection, 1 to 2. And it's a flat 2, so we're just going to keep it 2. So I think it's pretty safe to say 1 to 2. Although I never like having just 1 point between the projections. Like I'd rather this either be 1 to 3 or 0 to 2. But since the success rate's pretty high, I feel confident enough to say, yeah, let's definitely pick one really good course history guy, but limit it at 2. Or maybe allow 3. That's fine. Course history 2 would be, that next range that's really good. We're looking at 1 to 2. So if their average finishing position is somewhere between 20th and 40th place over the last 8 years or 9 years, I think it is, 2013, they would fit in this bucket. They would fall in this bucket, and you would want, again, 1 to 3. Same applies for 40 to 60th place. That is the number 1 ranked course history bucket. Again, rankings just go off this frequency number. So, don't get confused by this, I don't know if you'd be confused either way. Like I'm letting you know that the higher the number here, the better the rank is going to be there. You can use success rate. You could also use frequency rate. This is just like how often does it show up inside the top 10 every single year. You can see the minimums here are 1. So that means there's 100% frequency. It happens every single year that these buckets right here finish inside the top 10. So your 20 to 40 range, 40 to 60, 60 to 80. Now, What's interesting about the 60 to 80, it has a chance to pull up a 0. So be wary of that, but it could be anywhere between 0 to 2 that finish inside the top 10 from this bucket. It doesn't, like, the bucket system doesn't quite pinpoint the exact amount, but that would be foolish anyways. Like that, there's really no way to do that. But these are pretty tight numbers that I think are easy enough to build lineups with. And last week, we had 35 out of 36 buckets hit. They were completely successful. The week before that was like 33 out of 36. Overall, the whole year, it's a clip of 93, 94%. So the bucket system usually projects these pretty accurately. I'm not going to talk about the other ones. Let's move on to recent form. And I'm actually just going to try to cruise through this a little bit. Hopefully you have an understanding of how it all works out. You can see the projections here, and then the buckets. Again, the ranges here, 1 to 20th place, average finishing position over the last 7 weeks. I can tell you right now, Jon Rahm is in this bucket. So looking at minimum and maximum projections, just know that. And then the next two, so coming in with good recent form, how this reads when you look at the bucket system is coming in with good recent form basically is very beneficial. Like it promotes top 10 success rate pretty darn well. So load up on these guys, but never more than, well, I mean, you could load up on 4 guys that have really good recent form, and the bucket system would say, hey, that's within the projections. Projection is between 1 to 4. Pretty darn close, 2 to 4, but it's definitely 1 to 4 in that bucket. High strength of field there, so you're going to find a lot of good golfers in that bucket, with it only being 14 players deep. So do that, but then also take into consideration that recent form 2s and recent form 1s, looking at these ranges here, you're going to want one of those guys. So just take that into account as well. Now, to look at the most recent course history, we look at last year's finishing places. And again, this goes back to 2013, actually 2014, because my data doesn't go past 2013. You can't have a last year stat in 2013 unless you take into 2012 stats, and I don't. So 2014, this goes back to having a top 20 finish, far and away the best bucket of all the last year buckets. We're projecting somewhere between 2 to 5 inside the top 10. Now, we've only had a max of 3 inside the optimal lineup. Like, take into consideration this number over here. We have seen 1, so the frequency rate is very high. So definitely want at least 1 of these top 20 guys. The strength of field's super high, so I'm guessing we have a lot of expensive golfers with really good course history. Well, good finishes last year, that is. But either way, 2 to 4 is a pretty good number to go with. And then it kind of it fluctuates between having that 20 to 40th place finish. That's like 0 to 2. I mean, it's kind of pitiful, if I'm being honest. It's almost barely 1. 40 to 60 and 60 to 80, those are your dead zones. So if you have a favorite golfer that's in there that had a 40 to 60th place finish last year, not a good spot to be, nor would it be in that 60 to 80 range. But missing the cut, that's okay. You somewhere between 1 to 2 golfers would be fine, and then did not plays 0.99. Like I said, I've seen 0 happen from a bucket with 0.99 as the minimum projection. Let's just call this 0 to 2. So did not plays, yeah, not terrible. And this is, again, not playing last year. Now, when we look at last week's stats, these are only golfers that we're only looking at PGA Tour events. We're not looking at anything international. So with last week's stats, just consider that. It'd be anyone who played at the Waste Management Open, if not, or the WM Phoenix Open. And if not that, then they didn't play. So all your international golfers are going to be in this bucket, as well as golfers that just didn't play, like PGA Tour professionals that just didn't play. So keep that in mind. When we look at this bucket, that ends up being your best projection bucket. We're looking at 2 to 4 for golfers who did not play. Again, either they are international players that did play an international event, or They're, PGA Tour members who just didn't play. So that's like a Maverick McNeely. He's one instance of golfers who didn't play. But then like Thomas Peters or Dustin Johnson even. I think Dustin Johnson played in that Saudi event last week. So either of those guys would be in this bucket as well. Outside of not playing, your best bucket would be those that top 20 last week. So Scotty Scheffler won the tournament. John Rahm was a top 10 finish. So was Justin Thomas. So was Xander Schauffele. Not top 10. They're top 20. Sorry. But they all fall under that bucket. You can kind of tell strength of field's pretty darn high. We only have 15 golfers in that bucket. We usually see 15. So these projections, I think, are pretty solid. And then it's not really certain what to do from there. So it's just did not plays from last week and then top 20 finishes. Those are your main ones. And you could build a lineup straight from that. The max projection here is 3. The max projection here is 4. So you have 7 total golfers with max projections. That doesn't, no. That's not how you say that. You could have 6 golfers that just fit in these buckets, but we could also see 7 inside the top 10. That's how you would want to say that. And then the last bucket is your strokes gained stats. Let me know if you have any questions on this one. It's pretty even. You want basically positive off the tee guys. In 2 of those buckets, you want positive putting. In the other bucket, you want negative putting. I mean, the one with positive off the tee, negative putting, these are usually your ball strikers. The team no putts. I hate that phrase. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but I mean, it makes sense. I understand why it's team no putt, but it makes no sense why you would just target those guys just for the sake of it. I'm letting you know, though, you want somewhere between 1 to 3 of those guys, if you want to call them that. So your Hideki Matsuyamas, Colin Morikawas, they're all going to be under this bucket. Positive off the tee, negative putting. Even Will Zalatoris will be there, I think. Let's take a quick look, actually. So all these guys that are painted yellow, basically. I use the strokes gained stat to color everything. So JT, Morikawa, Matsuyama, there he is, Zalatoris, Finau. Those are all your strokes gained 3s. You can see all your strokes gained 1s are top players. And then your 2s. Not going to go over all of them, but just want to give you a look at that. Yeah, those are your main ones that you want to select from. You want at least 1 from each of those. And you can mix and match down here. I mean, your strokes gained 6, there's only 2 golfers that have no strokes gained stats. They're obviously rookies. You don't want to play those guys anyways. Strokes gained 5, those are negative off the tee, negative putting stats. Probably stay away from those, although it's 100% frequency rate. So we've seen at least 1 golfer from each 5 of these buckets in the optimal lineup. Not in the optimal lineup, inside the top 10. Here's your optimal lineup right here. Strokes gained 1 and strokes gained 3. So all stats positive. You want one of those guys for sure. All strokes gained, or no. Negative putting with whatever. I'm sorry. Strokes gained 3 is positive off the tee, negative putting and whatever stat in between. You want one of those guys. And we already talked about some of them. So with that being said, the choice is on you. We'll talk about the players tomorrow. I know this preview is kind of weird, but I like doing it this way. It gives you the data, the information you need to make your own choices. I will try to be more influential on picks tomorrow in the strategy video. We'll look at my ranks. We'll look at marquee tee time pairings. Golfers that are teed or paired together usually can draft off each other and play a little bit better. So we'll look at some of those guys, and then I will build lineups using the bucket criteria. But yeah, I like doing these previews this way. It's different. Again, it gives you the information, the data to choose from. We're looking at past top 10s. I mean, I only care about building optimal lineup. And another thing is, you're never going to find 6 golfers with progressive stats, like all their stats progressing to a super positive. So when guys are analyzing strokes gained stats for you guys, I mean, how many DFS channels do that? Where they go to Fantasy National or any other channel, or not channel, any other site, do their regression models or anything like that and spit out the same players that you hear, you know, in every other podcast. Like, oh yeah, JT's going to play well. Oh, that was a great stat I saw on Twitter. By the way, Rant Time. These are the things I can't stand on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. JT, Xander, and John Rahm, I think, had unbelievable ball striking days at the Waste Man or the WM Phoenix Open. All those three guys, and then they all lost at least one stroke putting. Here's the thing: if you don't know how those stats were created, don't talk about them. Like, if you don't know how they had negative putting, like they could have had one hole where they putted off the green, which I know they didn't do, but they could have done that. Spieth did it. He lost 1.7 strokes putting. That could account for the negative putting stat. Just that stat alone, when everything else just might be equal from there going forward. But if you don't know how they had negative putting, it doesn't mean they had a poor putting week. I mean, if everything was equal, then sure. You know, like if they were just like hitting everything to 8 feet, which is your 50% mark on a PGA Tour, and say they were only making 40% of those or even like 30% of those putts, that would account for why. They would have a really good ball striking day because they're hitting everything to 8 feet, having a birdie look at it, and only converting 30% of their putts. And maybe they 3-putt, then that could also account for some of their negative stats. But that stuff isn't portrayed to you. It's not portrayed to me. We just see raw stats that are just like, oh yeah, these guys, well, first of all, those 3 golfers, super good golfers. They're going to get those stats no matter what. Does that lead to success? Is that going to ensure someone's going to win? Not so much ensure, but is that a good predictor that someone's going to win? Are they going to retain those stats and then all of a sudden have positive putting stats? Like, those things don't trend. They don't, like, that progression doesn't happen. You know what's going to happen? Rahm, JT, and Xander, they will have good ball striking days, but not as good as you saw at the WM Phoenix Open. But then they're also going to have better putting days. Like, their putting stats are going to look better. And a lot of that comes because they're going to have longer putts to the hole. What if they start making those putts? Does that just automatically make them a better putter? No, it doesn't. Like, it's just one of those things I can't stand. And I know I've been talking about this before. I'm going to have a video out on it. We're going to talk about strokes gained stats eventually. But don't be conned into that stuff. Like, I think the bucket system is a really good tool just to get you an idea, you know, like strokes gained. You want 1s, you want 2s, you want 3s. So when we go to my player pool, you know, you can see this is color coded for strokes gained stats. You can also look at your last year, your last week. You can pause this video at any time and just see the players. But I can scroll through this and you'll have a better chance of picking a winner based off of these numbers that I have. So strokes gained 1. You know, obviously we have a lot of good ones here in the 10K range and the 9K range to finish inside the top 10. And then it helps you mix and match. So what if you like Justin Thomas? He might be, you know, according to the bucket system, you want somewhere between 1 to 3 of those guys. So maybe you go like Thomas, drop down to Zalatoris. That sounds like a really good idea. Maybe you can put Cam Smith. He's a strokes gained 1. We know we need those guys. You know, 10, 9, 8. Let's go down to our 7s. We see Seamus Power is there. Maybe we select Seamus Power because he's another strokes gained 1. We want that. Abe Answer's a strokes gained 2, and then Paul Casey's a strokes gained 3. That's way too expensive, but you guys get the idea. You're gonna have a better chance of building a lineup, a winning lineup, using the bucket system than you are looking at strokes gained stats and going, okay, so strokes gain off. Oh, no, putting. No. We want approach, right? Let's look at our best approach players. Morikawa, Casey, Thomas, Zalator. Yeah, we want them all in our lineup. Like, you're going to get 3 golfers from this group right here going to finish inside the top 20. or I should say this, inside the top 10, you'll have 3. Guarantee you it. Maybe even 4, but it's probably just going to be 3 because this is how stats work. Like, you're never going to get all of them in there. You can't get all the best stat guys to finish inside the top 10. It's just not going to happen. Even if you want to look at a small range of rolling stats, that's all good and dandy. That's not going to get you 6 players that are going to be inside the top 10. Here, let's take another good look. Going to 2021. Let me hide this. This also looking at the same stuff, but this is different. This is colored based off the last year bucket. I should update that. But we go here and we scroll all the way across to their strokes gained stats, and what do we see? Okay, so actually, hold on. Let me put a filter on this and filter by approach. These are just year stats. Look at that. 2 guys in the optimal lineup inside the top 20 of strokes gained approach. If I scroll down, you still don't see guys, so it would be pointless to look at that. And how about recent form stats? I was keeping recent form stats here. Strokes gained approach. These would be within the last 7 weeks. 1 guy in the optimal lineup. This is why I do the bucket system, is because you can't determine success by looking at rolling stats. Oh, actually, you know what? That should be phrased differently, because you can find success. Look at that. I found 1 optimal lineup guy. I found 2 optimal lineup guys. Okay, you can find optimal lineup guys this way, but is that successful? No. You can't find all 6 of your golfers here. You're not going to find all 6 of your golfers looking at strokes gained putting, nor are you going to do that season-long putting. Just that it doesn't work that way. And people are still trying to sell you guys and everyone else the same BS that everybody else is saying. And trying to, I don't know. I understand it's all in good faith. I think a lot of people are trying to, really help the community out and try to do their best. But it doesn't work that way. Golf isn't the same as the other sports. Like, here you go. Sung Kang and Scott Brown, negative approach, season long, negative approach, negative putting. You know what these are? These are your strokes gained 3 golfers right here. Any stat in between. Would you think it'd be negative approach? Probably not. But here we are. Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. And I don't think it'll ever work that way. Golf is so different. It's more psychological than it is physically imposing. If I'm playing basketball, I can use my might to get to the hoop. I can use my quickness to get a shot off. Shooting a basketball has less variables than a golf shot. It's much simpler to make a basketball shot than it is to get the ball in the hole. Same goes with football. You can impose your dominance in those sports. You can't in golf. So you need to find the trends that are going to get you there. And it's like trends based off of performance, not just trends as in trends like, oh, the last, 7 of the last 8 winners were 14 years old. They were 24 years old or 34 years old, whatever. Like that stat, that type of trend, that's dumb. But trends based off of performance at a particular golf course, that makes sense to me. And it makes sense to me because I'm a competitive golfer. These things, as I go week to week playing competitive golf, all apply to me. Whether I have really good course history somewhere, gives me good feelings, or I'm playing really well going to a new golf course, that all makes sense to me. Having a good finish last year, or even having a bad finish. Bad finish will give me motivation to do well next year. That doesn't apply for everyone, but it's going to apply to some. And that's how you find most of your guys inside the top 10. That's my soapbox. That was a long rant. I had this video done, I think, in 27 minutes, but so be it. I enjoy using this time to share my thoughts and feelings on DFS golf. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I don't think I have anything else. So with that being said, I'm gonna hit the outro here. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.